I have a number of remarks, and then also Jason and Terry and the librarian ones will wrap things up as well. So we've got some ground to cover this morning. What I wanted to focus on in this year's address is on the word connections. And I want to begin with talking about the patrons that we serve and what those connections are about to them. The people we serve and would like to serve are changing the way they interact with each other and the way that they learn. They're changing by more self-organizing, self-directed, and less depending on top-down instructions. They're better able to capture new information and distribute to their fellow community members. They're more dependent upon feedback and response as the community adjusts to new realities. They're more tied to group outreach and group knowledge. They're more attuned to friend and foe, competitors and allies through instant alerts and ongoing observations. Lee Rainey is a researcher with the Pew Institute that spends a great deal of time looking into all types of libraries. And what he talked about in one of his recent addresses was communities and the general learning environment of those communities. So let's take a look at a couple of those communities, and actually the comprehensive aspect of those communities and that we're familiar with when it comes to generations. Contrary to the idea that the Generation Y, thinking that they are the most dominant users of every aspect of online life, that really isn't the case. The classic generation, they're competitive when it comes to the use of email. The younger generation may say that's why email is for old people, but they do dominate that world. And when we think about our services when it comes to delivering things online, that's where the classics are at. The boomers, they're just as much using online services in the area of travel reservations. They dominate that more than Generation Y. Generation X, bank, shop, and look for health information. And again, what this is saying is that generations of people dominate certain aspects of online use, as opposed to just the younger people have that locked up. That isn't the case. So let's talk about the younger generation and the aspect of where we grow our services not only traditionally, but we grow our services for the future. Email is 22 years old. Cell phones are 12 years old. The first internet browser was in 1993. That also, just for some of you that may not know, that is when I helped to co-found an internet service provider company. I didn't realize at the time that we were on way past the bleeding edge, but we brought up an ISP at that time, and we developed it through 3 communities, including libraries, schools, government. The first instant messenger, 1997. Blogs are 15 years old in the digital natives mindset. iPods in 2002. 30% of teens have blogs and post. 40 to 50, tag online. This is those budding catalogers shown. 74% have MP3s. 75% have a cell phone. Those are some pretty substantial online aspects when it comes to the learning environment of users. So what does that mean for us in making connections? It means canvassing online communities. What that's about is finding out virtually what people care about and plugging into those groups. One of the commonly expressed dreads in communities that are virtual is that they're considered to be socially inferior. They're lesser versions of real communities. That's one of the aspects that people bring to making these connections. In actuality, there is the blend of the virtual and the real. The Center for Digital Future reports that half of the online communities that they tracked, they supported their interactions with face-to-face gatherings, which leads us to a very important connection that we provide as libraries. Online interactions will enhance real-world engagement. Libraries live in this hybrid world of virtual and real. The challenge for us is to connect with those virtual communities with conversation, with feedback, with rankings, with ratings. That's how they all build their communities. That's how we have to make that connection. Here's another aspect that we can bring to the table. Tools and tutoring. The reality in communities is that online is that they connect in different ways at a much higher level through the function of velocity and volume, fast, and a whole bunch of information. Individuals and groups are much more on high alert status in online communities, and they respond more rapidly to new inputs in real-time environments. Dan Gilmore, who's a leading journalist, said it pretty well about these online learning environments. If someone knows something in one place, everyone who cares about that something will know it soon enough. People have ways to find out instantly about things and act on them collectively without any kind of intervention from a central command structure in online communities. And in our age of information overabundance, information overwhelming, I think I've mentioned before, I think that's going to be one of the next diseases that we have is, just like ADD, we're going to have way too much information for people to, I'm serious, to sift through. So I think there's even more reason for us to understand what this world is like. And that's where librarians have the most potential to connect between the virtual and the physical in real time. And our strategic plan is right where it needs to be in that conversation.